This is going to be part 2 of our Panther Ausf late production. This is a DOS Werk kit by Tacom. It's a Blitz kit. So I don't know how you guys feel about different manufacturers making model kits for other manufacturers, but that's something that's just been happening since, I guess, since modeling began. So, and we just finished not too long ago here the tugboat, which was a pyroplastics kit put out by Lindbergh and had been released by several other manufacturers. So it's kind of a industry thing, you know, they kind of do that. But anyway, where we finished up is we got our suspension on and our tracks on our Panther. And I did go ahead and fix the track right here where it did not want to sit down. And now it doesn't want to come up. There we go. There we go. So, yeah, because we're going to want to be able to drop that into place there without it popping up. So I went ahead and sanded a little bit there, or filed a little bit to get that to sit down nicely for us. So when we go to reassemble the kit after it's painted, we shouldn't have any problems there. So there's that. Now, I will say that at this point, we're kind of going to deviate from the instructions a little bit. Big surprise there. Because I think we need to actually get fitted and probably install these, the back armor plate and the upper hull, because oftentimes you can run into little issues. It may need filling and what have you. Now the instructions is going to have us go ahead and put all the attachments and everything and build up this entire upper hull before we put it on the lower hull. And I don't think that's a great idea because we might be breaking things off and we don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and work on our, let's see, we got done with part 3. So we're going to skip over to part 7, which is putting the plate on the back of the bathtub hull, and then we're going to fit our upper hull, but we'll have to put a couple of pieces in before we can do that. But I think that's probably the best way to go about it. So let's go ahead and jump down to the bench here and get to work on this. All right, so I guess the first thing we really need to do is go ahead and get these tracks off so they're not in the way and all these road wheels. And we don't want this stuff falling off and everything or in our way while we go to fit the rest of the hull together. As you can see here, I've just got it kind of taped up there so everything wasn't falling off while we were working on our tracks. So we can go ahead and pull all these road wheels off together here. They're still kind of taped together. When it comes to the opposite side, I'm just kind of wondering if we can't just pull the whole thing off together. So a little experiment here, see how that works out. And as you see there, the whole thing will come off. So that's kind of unique. So, all right, we'll just set that aside. So the first part we want to work on is going to be this rear armor plate here. And it's just supposed to slide down into place, but it's not really a great fit. It's really, really tight. And it kind of wants to not fit so great. So I think the first thing we need to do is work on that it being so tight. So it's not squeezing itself there, which causes a problem when we go to cement it into place here. So I'm just going to use my file here and kind of relieve it a little bit there so that it will slide down. It needs to be snug, but it doesn't need to be as tight as it is because it causes it to kind of bow out a little bit from the bathtub style hull there. Now I am paying close attention to make sure that I don't mess up the weld beads that are actually molded in to that seam there where it fits up into the bathtub style hull. And it's still kind of snug, but I think we'll be able to work with that. As you can see, we can get it pushed down nice and flush there. So that ought to work pretty good for us there. And as you can see, it's got that little piece there on the inside. So we're going to clamp it right there to keep it pressed up nice and tight. That way it doesn't spring away while our cement is setting up for us. Now, since I'm using to me extra thin, that shouldn't be a problem. But here, we're going to have to deal with this separately on these corners here. As you can see, it kind of springs away from that back plate. So we'll deal with that after we cement everything here on the lower section. So I am using to me extra thin, and it's really good at wicking down into those little seams there. Just want to make sure that we don't cement our fingers to it. Also on the inside here, we're going to add that to me extra thin there. That way the bottom section of that plate is secure. Now we'll just give that a few minutes to actually grab hold there and set up for us. And once it does, we can kind of work on this part where the sponsons are kind of pulling away. So I'm going to use a piece of wood here. And I just want to make sure that it's straight. And if it is bowed, we will put the bow down. And I'm just going to use some clamps here. We're going to clamp this piece of straight wood or anything else that you have that is fairly rigid. As you can see there, how it's kind of sprung up away from that bottom plate there of our sponsons. So yeah, if we go ahead and clamp that on the left and right, that'll help pull that bathtub type hull back up really close to where it needs to go. So now we can go ahead and cement that into place. And I am going to use a little piece of, to me, a masking tape here to help close up the gap to make sure that we are that we've got a lot of tension there. So I just want to make sure that it's closed up and seated correctly there. So I'm going to give it a little pull there, put a little tension on it, and that should secure it. And then we'll do the same thing to the opposite side and let that set up. And once it sets up, we can pull this rig off of here. And as you can see, this would have been rather difficult to do if we had had those boxes and all the little fiddly bits on the back of our armor plate there. So going to our instructions here, something that I did miss, and that is we need to drill a couple of holes in that back armor plate if we intend to use I guess it's the phone box, which later model Panthers did have. So instead of using the regular storage box that's there, I'm going to use that phone box. So we need to drill those two holes there. And also we need to remove and fill those holes that are on the outside of it there for holding the storage box, which we're actually not going to use. So the instructions calls for us to drill a 0.8 millimeter hole. And I'm going to do that with my handy Tamiya drill here. And we'll drill both those out. And it's a good thing that I caught that in the instructions there, because this would have been rather difficult to do once we install the upper hull section here. So it always pays to go back and look at your instructions. Now, we could have done it, of course, before we actually glued this back plate up, and it might have been just a little bit easier, but it's really not that big of a deal, as long as we've caught it. We also need to trim off these little plastic nubs here for the location of that storage box. And since we're using the phone box, we're going to trim these off. And I am using my rounded blade here to do that. That way I'm not cutting in to any of the surrounding surface there, because this is a nicely textured piece, and I really don't want to screw that up too much here. So using that rounded area there on that blade really helps. Now we're going to fill these, and I'm going to use this perfect plastic putty to do that. It is a water-based putty, which makes it easy to clean up and sand and take care of. Now, since it is water-based, it's going to shrink a little bit on us, which is, I mean, it's to be expected. If you've done any filling on any models, you know that fillers usually shrink a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the inside of the plate as well to help add more material there. And after this dries and we do our preliminary cleanup, we'll probably have to come back in and fill it again and just dress it up there. So that'll dry pretty quick. So while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and look at the parts that they want us to put on the underside of the upper hull there. There's those hinges for the hatches, and then the little engine detail there. And if we flip over, we'll have those two hatches. So I think we need to put the hatches on and our little engine detail in before we continue with fitting our upper hull. So this is the engine detail, and this part doesn't have a whole lot of detail in it, but you could paint it up if you wanted to display it with the engine hatch open, but I'm not planning on doing that. So I'm just going to go ahead and cement this into place. Of course, it would be easier to paint ahead of time, but I'm going to have it as a closed model, so I'm just going to cement this piece in. Now, when I was removing the parts and cleaning them up, I did use a marker here and write the part number on the bottom side of the hatches. That way I would know where they went after I'd cleaned them up and I didn't get them all mixed up. And as you can see, they do fit nicely. Just press them into place here. And we can just cement them from the underside here. And making sure that we don't cement our finger to the hatch. We don't want any ugly fingerprints there. And we'll go ahead and cement the other hatch in place too. So they do have these hinge details for the hatches. I'm going to go ahead and stick them in, although we're never going to see them. But if you wanted to display the kit with the hatches open, you would at least have that detail. But this Blitz kit does not come with an interior, so I really don't see any sense in having the hatches open. And I'm just putting these pieces in because I don't like extra pieces floating around. So we're gonna put them in, but they'll never be seen. So now I guess we're ready to go ahead and fit our upper hull to the lower hull there. Now these mud guards here on the front, you do kind of have to tuck them in. It is a tight fit there. And that'll allow the that front seam to close up. Then back here on that rear plate where it all meets together, we kind of have like a little nub sticking out there. Right there, as you can see, keeps it from closing up the way it should. And on the opposite side, it's not there. So best thing to do would be to remove that. And I'm just going to use that same curved blade there just to kind of get in there. We're going to remove the bulk of it with our hobby knife here. Get that little chip out of the way there. And once we've got that, we can go ahead and use our file and just straighten it up a little bit. Make sure that there's nothing that's going to hold us off. And then we can go ahead and test fit again. Again, tucking in those same mud guards. And then we can check the fit around the back of the hull there. Yeah, that's much nicer. So we don't have anything keeping us off. Now it does want to spring away from the bottom of the sponson there. So we're going to have to pay particularly close attention to that. Once we're happy with the fit, we can go ahead and start cementing this together. Now I'm going to start right here on the very front of the vehicle, making sure that these two armor plates go together without any gap. And we will cement this up first and kind of hold it until that cement actually grabs it and holds it for us. And I am just going to apply pressure to it there to make sure it doesn't spring back away and leave a little gap that we would have to fill later. But it is a nice tight fit, and it will set up for us pretty quick here, and then we can move on to the rest of the hull. So we need to close up these gaps here between the bottom plate of the sponson and the sponson itself. And I think the best way to do that is going to be using some Tamiya masking tape here. And we'll just kind of tape that seam together, kind of pull it up, just like so. And then we'll put tension on our tape and fold it around that edge. And that'll help close the gap. And we'll just put a couple of pieces on each side, and that should hold it in for us. And then we can start cementing everything together. So just like in aircraft, when I glue the fuselages together, I just work on a small section at a time. And this Tamiya extra thin is going to run along that seam there, wherever that seam is closed up nice and tight. And we'll just make sure that that grabs. And once it does, we can just work our way on back towards the rear of the vehicle. Kind of gluing it up in like thirds here. And once I get this one side cemented together, we will go ahead and do the opposite side. So we do have a little gap here where the back plate meets the engine deck there. As you can see, it kind of springs away in the corners there a little bit. But that's okay, we can fix that. So I'm going to use these X-Acto modeling bar clamps to put tension on it there and to help pull everything together. And as you can see, this is one of the reasons why I don't want to follow the instructions when it comes to gluing these holes up together. Because if we'd put all those little widgets and fiddly bits and stuff onto the upper hull there, we might be breaking things and losing things, and we don't want to do that. So once I'm satisfied that the gap is all closed up for us, we'll go ahead and put our Tamiya extra thin there and run that all along that upper seam, and we'll give that plenty of time to set up there so it doesn't try to separate on us later. Alright, so now we're going to go back to our instructions. Now we're going to flip back to part 4 here, and we have these brackets and the toe connection to put on, and the jack in step 5 to build up, which is a really detailed jack, as you can see. And we have our exhaust to put together, and then we have our armored covers for our exhaust. Now this is an option. You have the welded one, which is the one I think I'm going to use. I think that was in latter production, whereas the cast one was in earlier production. So we're going to use the welded up one. And of course finishing off the back of the that armor plate there. So let's go ahead and get that stuff taken care of. And it's at this point that I noticed that there was 2 other items that we needed to take off of that rear plate there. So we're going to take care of that. So back to our curved blade here, and we're going to scrape off this little bracket here that's not supposed to be on our late production model here. So we'll take care of that. And also that plate down below that's just kind of molded in there. We'll take care of that little rectangular shaped plate too. So now we can start putting parts on. So we have these two little bitty pieces here. I don't know what they are, but they do have a rather long locator tab, and it kind of runs into that back plate on the inside of that bathtub style hull. So they don't seat all the way, so we're going to have to trim those up. And so I'm just going to snip them off here with my sprue cutters. Now this is the reason why you always test fit everything. I live by test fit. You guys know that. And it's kind of important to do that. We wouldn't want to put cement on something and it not seat the way it should. And so I need to take a little bit more off. And I'll have to do the same thing to the second one so that it will all fit just like it's supposed to. And there we go. I think that's good. So we'll clean up the other one. And so we'll just put a little bit of Temi Extra Thin right into the socket for it and slide that tab into place there. So I've decided to do these little bitty pieces first because they're awful close to that towing attachment that goes on to that back plate. So I figured putting these on first and getting them lined up would be better than trying to put them in with, say, tweezers, which always has that element of you being able to lose it really quick when you're using tweezers. So with those installed and lined up, we can start putting that towing attachment into place. And the locator tabs for these needed to be sanded down a little bit as well. That way they will fully seat just like they're supposed to. And we'll just press that into place. And it is a nice tight fit. And that looks good. And I've already cleaned up the other one, so we'll go ahead and stick that one into place. And a little bit of cement here. That will finish these off for us. So next up we have our exhaust brackets to put on. And we do want to pay particular attention on how these are oriented because you can get them upside down. As you can see, it's got that straight bar there, which actually goes into a slot on the exhaust. So that actually goes down towards the ground, or in this case, since we're upside down, it goes up. So I just put a little bit of Temi Extra Thin right on the locator holes there for our bracket. And then we can just go ahead and cement both of these into place. So next up, we're going to work on our jack. Now this is quite a detailed jack. It has quite a few parts to it. So we're going to cement these two sides together. And as you can see, it is keyed. And you simply press it together there. And a little bit of extra thin. And next we have our gearbox here that goes on the side of the jack. Now that's the part that the handle is going to be attached to. So it has two locator holes there. They're different sizes. One thing I will say is that on the back side of this gearbox are some ejector pin marks that kind of protrude out. So you're going to need to clean those up. So next up is the foot. And I'm just checking my instructions here. Make sure I'm sticking it in the right direction there. And yeah, so we're going to glue the foot on. Now, we're going to go back to our instructions here and look. D21 is actually a bracket. So we're going to want to make sure that that bracket is oriented correctly on our jack. So when you go to install this, make sure that your jack orientation is correct so that when you slide that bracket on, it's going to be facing in the correct direction. And it just slides down to a little tab that sticks out on the side of our jack there. Just like so. And just make sure it's fully seated and that it is crossways on the jack there, nice and even. And then we'll just cement that into place. And then the next part we're going to put on will be the saddle that goes on top of the jack there. And that's the end that you put up against the actual vehicle. And it's just got a square locator nub on it. And then we have our handle to install as well. And one little hole there, little hole and peg combination going on there. And I am going to kind of angle my handle out a little bit. And it would do good to check that against the hull to make sure that the handle is kind of dangling down. That's kind of how I want it to look on my finished jack here. And we'll set that aside and let it dry. Next up we have our exhaust. Now both these pieces, the two exhausts are the exact same, so there's not a left and right. And I've chosen the one that has the 90-degree elbow at the top. So I'm just going to put, to me, extra thin on it here to kind of soften that polystyrene plastic up for us. And the ideal is to try to get this seam to close up as much as possible. Now these halves have the pin and hole little locations there. Try not to glue my fingers to it. And we're going to press it together really good here. It would be nice if we get a little bit of squeeze out, but if we don't, that's okay. We'll probably have to do some filling on it later. We do want to make sure that everything is lined up. And I am going to go ahead and run a little bit of some more extra thin around it there. And we're going to probably have to fill these seams, but that's okay. We want our exhaust to look as nice as we can get it. So we have two of these assemblies to go ahead and make up. So now we're going to take a look at these armored exhaust covers here. Now I've chosen to use the welded up ones. So the one on the right side has a little triangular bracket that goes to it. And that little bracket is to hold the crank for manually starting the engine. And it has a little funny angle to it there. So I'm actually going to just kind of stick this onto the model here and check that angle to make sure that it looks right. So it should be perpendicular to the ground and not parallel to the back armor plate there. And then the left side cover has that little nighttime blackout light. I know it's got a name, but I can't remember what it's called. So we're going to want to make sure that that's lined up nicely. As you can see, the bracket for it is already molded into the cover itself there. So we just need to square it up so it doesn't look awkward. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and attach these armored covers. Now they do have two different size pins on them from the left and right, so you shouldn't be able to, I say shouldn't, I mean I could if I tried hard, but you shouldn't be able to mix them up. So we'll just put those into place. Now going back to our exhaust, I'm going to use Mr. Surfacer 500 here and a brush to go ahead and fill in those seams a little bit there so that we don't have any unsightly seams there. Now this is a very, very strong smelling product, and if you want to clean your brush, make sure that you use something like Mr. Leveling Thinner to clean your brush out. So we are going to come back later and sand and buff these seams out so that we don't have any unsightly seams here on these. Now back to our instructions. We're going to go ahead and put our storage boxes on, although we are going to use the phone box, which is item C4 there. And then we also have these little brackets that go on underneath the sponson. And I don't know if they're so much a bracket as they are a mud shield, but anyway, we'll put those on as well. So starting with the left-hand box, we'll just put a little bit of, to me, extra thin there in the locator holes and line up our pins and make sure it's fully seated, just like so. and I always like to check that alignment there. And then we'll go ahead and cement the phone box into place. I'm calling it a phone box. I think that's exactly what it is, but I'm not positive. If I'm wrong, you guys let me know. Now, it does have two little tabs there at the top that we need to put some cement on that holds it up next to our armor plate there. So next, we're going to put on these rear mud guards or mounting plates or whatever they are. Now, there is only a little index line molded into the bottom of that sponson right there on the back. So there's no locator holes or anything like that. So you're just going to have to eyeball it and get it up against that little bitty line that they've molded in, and then just set these plates into place here. And there is a left and right, so you don't want to get those mixed up. Now with that done, we'll go back to our instructions here, and that's step 9. So we have the PE and stuff. Now we're going to do the PE later, but we'll do our engine hatch there, our tube for our cleaning kit, and of course our machine gun mount there on the bow. We've already done our hatches over the driver and the gunner's position. So starting off with this hatch, we have 2 armored discs that go on. Now I think these are like intakes. And they do have those nice air intake slots cut underneath them, which is really nice if you are going to display it with the hatch in the open position. It's got some nice detail there. However, they did choose to have kind of a weird locating pin, which is a raised circle with a slot in it. So you just got to make sure that you get that lined up so that they set evenly. Now I'm going to choose to have my hatch in the closed position. Now I guess you could just keep it uncemented so that you could remove it if you wanted to. But I don't see any sense in that since we don't have a full interior tank, and just seems to me that that's an option that I'm just going to pass on. So we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to go ahead and close our hatch. So on to our ball-mounted machine gun here. Simply slide the barrel right into that little hole. It is a tight fit. And then the ball itself has that one peg that sticks out on the side of it. So it'll only go into the housing one way. So all we got to do is just drop it into the housing. Make sure that that peg is in the slot. And then we can just go ahead and put that onto the front armor plate there. And just make sure that it's lined up. And then we'll just touch it with a little bit of cement here. Now, if you don't use too much to me extra thin, it should still move once we're done. Next is the handle that goes onto our engine door, the engine access door there. Now, the sprue gates on this is right on the side of the handle instead of in the middle on top. So we're going to have to clean one side of it up here. Now, normally I like to glue these on and just clean them up later. Because that makes it so much easier with a small part. But in this particular case, we're going to have to clean up this one side here so we can get it installed. Now these handles are really nicely made, so it's not an option. Well, I mean, you have an option of making them yourself and installing maybe some wire ones, but I didn't really see the need because this is a really detailed model and the parts are really nice. So we're just going to go ahead and use the plastic ones. And we can go ahead and install our driver and radio man / gunner grab handles on their hatches as well. And as you can see, I've left that sprue gate on this. And it's going to be so much easier to clean those up later on after the to me extra thin sets up for us there, kind of holding these small parts in place for us. So we're not losing them, and you don't have to worry about trying to hold on to them during cleanup. So the rest of the assembly going down the side of this armor plate here on the left side goes just according to the instructions. No real issues with it. It all goes together just as you would expect it to. And each of these parts fit exactly where they're supposed to. So that's a nice change in a model kit. Now this kit does have quite a few more pieces than you would expect from, say, a Tamiya kit. Now, the one part that I am going to leave off, well, actually, I'm going to leave off several, but one of them is going to be definitely this pry bar here. And it sets onto the brackets for the main gun tube cleaning kit tube there that's on the side of the hull there. So it'll be easier to paint that up later. So yeah, we're leaving the PE off till the very last, and then we've got a lot of other little pieces to put on. The tools, we'll move on and put those into place, and they are just pin and hole type arrangements there. So I always have to debate with myself if I should mount the tools or not mount them and just paint them separately and then install them. And that's kind of up to you, whichever way you want to do it. However, with the shovel, I think you need to go ahead and put it on, as we'll see later on. So another thing that we're actually going to concentrate on a little bit is these hooks here. These are the little lifting hooks for the engine deck. You want to make sure, now they are very small parts, so you got to be careful with them and not lose them, but you want to make sure that you've got them actually oriented correctly. So you guys have seen me sticking on parts here for about 30 minutes. Now they all go on very well. Just make sure that you are paying attention to their orientation in the instructions. And from here on out, the instructions are really good at showing you exactly where everything goes. Just be cognizant. Yeah, that's a big word for me, but pay attention to the smaller, more fragile parts because you can snap them if you're not careful. So everything else is locating just fine. And like I said before, options up to you if you decide to leave your tools and stuff off for painting. I kind of like to put them on, that way the racks themselves get the same paint color scheme and same paint intensity that the rest of the hull gets. So one part that we are going to really start to concentrate on and pay close attention to is these mud and dust shields here that go down the side of the hull. As you can see, they've got these little brackets that actually sets into these little recesses here along the hull. So the left and right bracket or shields are very distinct. The one we're putting on right now on the left-hand side has a cutout for the shovel. Now, as I mentioned before, you might want to put that shovel on before you attempt to put this on, because that might be a little bit of an issue later on. As you can see, it fits really close to the shovel. So, and I'm just cementing up the first two brackets on the shield and making sure that it tacks up. And then we're just going to move down the side of the hull and cement each individual one up, making sure that it's seated in its little slot there. Now they fit perfectly. That's not a problem, but you might run into an issue if you try to do all of them at the same time. So one at a time, I think, is probably the best way to approach that. So next up, we're going to take care of those little sprue gates that we left on those grab handles on our hatches here. And as you can see, I'm just cutting them off with the sprue cutters here, being careful not to break anything. And now we can just sand off what's left and kind of blend it down and clean those up so that there's no evidence of that sprue gate ever being there. And we don't have to worry about losing these little bitty parts. Now, something that I normally do early on in the build, and I kind of forgot about it. So we're going to go ahead and do it now, and that is the fitting of our turret there. So you can see that bottom plate really sticks really bad. So I am going to have to kind of sand it out. So I'm going to be really careful that I'm not breaking off anything. And like I said, we should have done it earlier, but I didn't. So now I'm going to take care of it. As you can tell, the move to Georgia has kind of scrambled my brain because I'm not remembering all the stuff that I used to do early on. But we'll get all that taken care of there so that it fits appropriately. So once we build up the turret, we won't have any issues. Next up, we're going to take care of that PE, that photo etch screens or grates that need to go onto the engine deck. Now we're going to peel off the cover for it there. It does have clear plastic on both sides. I'm just going to leave it on the bottom. That way, as we cut these pieces out, they don't go flying and we have to chase them down. Now, in order to cut these out, I am using a piece of glass which doesn't flex, which means it's not going to bend up our PE parts, because this is really thin and flexible PE pieces here. And I'm just going to use that curved X-Acto blade there, kind of catch those little connection points there on this PE fret, and we'll just snap those off. And that'll free all of these parts from the actual fret. And with that done, we can go ahead and peel off the clear plastic that's on the back side. And as you can see, some of the parts have already fallen free. Oh, actually all of them. So we did a good job cutting them off there. Now you might not want to cut all of them at the same time if you have a lot of different parts and smaller parts. You might want to just do those one at a time so you don't lose them. But here, these are fairly large pieces. And as you can see, we still have that little sprue gate on it there, so we're going to have to clean that up. And for cleaning it up, we're going to use just a small jeweler's file here, and or modeling file, and just carefully file these off. Now you can see I'm going with the length rather than across. That way we're not bending up our PE. We have more strength in that actual part if we go with the full length of it there. And we'll have to clean up all of those. So we don't want any of those little burrs ruining the look of our Panther here. So we'll need to clean all those up. And of course, when it comes to attaching our PE, we need to use some CA glue. I'm just using Star Bond's medium CA glue so to actually attach it to the plastic. You can't use modeling cement for that. Now when you put these on, make sure that you pay attention to which side goes down. The smooth side goes down, and the side that has the nice relief in it there and the details needs to face up, of course. And I know you guys are thinking, why you even mentioned that? And the reason is because we can get so involved in our modeling that we're not actually paying attention to our parts. We're paying attention to the process. And when you do that, that's when you make mistakes. So make sure you double check everything before you commit to it. And that'll help avoid those oh crap moments. Also, I will say that these PE parts really fit nicely. Now, if you've ever dealt with PE parts that really don't fit too well, you know exactly what I mean. And if you're new to modeling, well, this will be a really nice experience for you. So we do have two optional parts that goes over the two rectangular grills on the right-hand side here of the engine deck. And I think they're shutters. I think they're sliding type shutters. I'm not really sure about that. If any of you guys know, maybe you can let me know what they are. But they are a plastic part, so we are going to have to use the CA glue to attach those. And and this is an option for this build. So I'm going to go ahead and install these on my kit. And when we're done, that's what it's supposed to look like. Really nice fit and a really nice look. Okay, so that completes our upper hole. Now there are some things that we haven't done, but as you can see, it looks really good. Yeah, I'm very pleased with that. This is a very nice kit. It really is. Even though we did have a couple of fit issues, you know, but they're really easy to take care of. It's not that big a deal. So we do have some parts that we did not put on the kit that were in the steps that we just completed, and that would be like our spare tracks. We're going to paint those up separately because they really do stick out, and they've got a lot of details. So because of the relief of these parts, we'll paint those up separately, and our little pry bar here. Actually, it's the large pry bar, and our jack. Very nice jack. A lot of parts in that jack, but it's really quite fun to assemble. And then, of course, we have our exhaust, which we're going to paint these up separately too, and then install them on the vehicle. So, yeah, that's going to wrap up this part of the build. So that's part 2. We're done with that. Upper hull is all done except for the parts that we're going to paint separately. And so next up will be the turret. So that'll be part 3. Oh, and our tow cables. We kind of skipped over the tow cables because we still got to cut those and fit those into place and stuff like that. So don't want to forget about them. But we're going to save them for the very last, I think. So special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. And I'm sorry that the video has been quite long, but I really wanted to get through the upper hull part there. Oh, and if you're new to the channel, I hope I earned your subscription today. So yeah, don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified on the next video. So until I see you guys next Friday, you guys stay safe.